Welcome back to Nocturnia. Desperation has a temperature. It's the suffocating heat of a cheap apartment in summer, the kind of heat that melts ambition into apathy. It's the feeling of your own skin becoming a prison. Tonight's story is about Doug, a retired fighter whose desperation led him to trust an old friend, and down a path into a private hell where the monsters in the ring were no match for the monsters watching from the stands. There comes a point where wearing less clothing does nothing to deal with the heat. Doug had run out of clothing to remove 10 degrees ago. The only thing left was his own skin. A retired fighter with a few too many blows to the head. His only companions were a beer gut, the sweltering air, and his dog, Muffin. She whined at the door to go out, but even breathing was too much effort. He was melting into the cheap fabric of his couch when a knock came at the door. It was Gabe. "I'm here to answer your prayers," Gabe said with a slick smile, stepping into the sweltering apartment. Gabe was a friend from the old days, a hustler who had cost Doug more money than he'd ever made. "What are you messing with now?" Doug growled. "This needs to be discussed somewhere secure," Gabe said, his eyes gleaming. "What I'm about to show you will blow your mind." Doug refused, years of scams and bad blood souring any trust he had left. He tried to close the door, but Gabe blocked it. "Listen," Gabe said, his voice dropping. "I'm going to give you $500 just to hear me out. The money is yours, no matter what." He pulled 5 crisp $100 bills from a bulging wallet. Doug stared at the money, a sum that could pay his rent and fix his AC. It was the answer to a prayer he hadn't realized he'd made. "Fine," he said, taking the cash. "I'll listen." He gave Muffin a kiss on the head and followed Gabe down the street to a cherry-red Ferrari. As soon as the car roared to life, a blast of cold air hit his damp skin. It was the first moment of relief he'd felt all day. "I told you, I have the answer." Gabe laughed over the heavy metal blasting from the speakers. They raced through the city to the rich side of town, pulling up to an ornate gate set into 12-foot-high brick walls. The gate opened into a private estate, and at the end of a long driveway sat a home the size of a castle. "It belongs to a friend of mine," Gabe said. "He's the one I've been making deals with." They entered a foyer with marble floors and a massive chandelier. It was a world away from Doug's sweltering apartment. A young, impeccably dressed man named Mickey appeared. "Gabriel," he said smoothly, "I see you brought your fighter." Doug's blood ran cold. "Wait, fighter? I thought this was a business deal." Gabe finally turned to him. "It's a fight, Doug. I'm betting on you to win," Mickey added, his voice like ice. "Just so you know. The prize pool is at $1 million. Doug tried to refuse, to walk away, but Mickey's polite demeanor vanished. "Unfortunately," Mickey said, "your agreement at this point is unnecessary. If you don't follow me willingly, my staff can help you. The fight starts in 10 minutes. Doug was led down a hall to a heavy metal door. Gabe gave him a gentle push. "If you go down now," Gabe whispered, "I will think about a 60/40ths split." The door closed behind him, and Doug found himself on a landing overlooking a dirt arena. The smell of blood, dust, and despair hit him like a physical blow. Below, about 30 desperate-looking people were crowded against a far wall. In the center, a lean, muscular young man held another man by the throat, his face a ruin of blood and broken bone. The young man dropped the body, and his eyes locked onto Doug, a fresh toy to be broken. Before he could move, Mickey's voice echoed over a speaker. "Last man left alive gets to leave. No one leaves until everyone else is dead." The gate to the arena opened, and the crowd surged out to grab weapons, pickaxes, swords, baseball bats. The young man, however, ignored the weapons and charged directly at Doug, fists swinging. Doug barely reacted in time, taking a heavy punch to the shoulder. The pain was a familiar fire, and years of dormant instinct roared back to life. He put up his guard and met the man's charge with a brutal uppercut. The man's nose shattered against Doug's fist, and he went down like a bag of sand. Doug stepped out into the bloody arena and grabbed a nearby 2x4, bringing it down on the man's skull. Above, in a special seat, Mickey watched like a Roman emperor. Gabe looked down from the stands. Doug pointed his bloody weapon at him, a silent promise. Another man charged, and Doug swung the board, and another man went down. He fought defensively, a grim dance of survival until fewer than 10 people remained. The rabid animals were gone. Only those with skill were left. "Time is up," Mickey's voice announced. "We now go into the double trouble round. If your fighter can escape the blob, you receive a double payout." A hole opened in the center of the arena, and from it emerged a white, fleshy monster. It looked like a dozen people had been painfully crammed into an 8-foot humanoid shape, their eyes blinking from all over its grotesque body. It began picking up the corpses, their flesh melting as it absorbed them. A few fighters who were only playing dead screamed as the blob engulfed them. One man with a sword charged, sinking his blade into the creature's flesh. The blob simply absorbed the sword, and then the man, holding him like a toddler would an insect. Doug scrambled for the starting room, but a gate now blocked the stairs. As he tried to move to the other side of the arena, an ankle was grabbed. It was the bloody-fisted man from the beginning, clinging to him with a death grip. "Come on, you idiot," Gabe screamed from the stands. "Don't you dare lose me $2 million. The blob noticed their struggle. It lurched towards them, dragging along body parts it hadn't finished absorbing. Doug scrambled to get away, but the anchor on his leg made escape impossible. The white flesh surrounded him. It burned, and as his world dissolved into a chorus of screams and melting flesh, his last coherent thought was of his dog, Muffin, waiting for him by a door that he would never open again.